And we're live
And we're
again.
live.
Amazing, amazing. Well, welcome, welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to have you again. My name is Ignacio. If this is the first time that you're joining, I'll be your host. I'm part of the Kiflo team, and I also have my colleague Tom, also from the Kiflo team, and he'll be the moderator. So basically, Tom will be taking care of all the questions in the chat. I'll explain now in a minute the format, but if you do have questions, please put them in the chat because the format it's not a typical webinar. It's basically us having a conversation with the guests, but you can also participate. We actually encourage you to ask those questions. So um, today we are going to basically have a really interesting topic. I'm going to introduce you to the guest in 1 minute, but let's give a couple of minutes for people to join. In the meantime, Tom, maybe we can ask people if you can put in the chat what's your current role. We would love to know what's your current role. So just put there in the chat so that we can get things started, and then we can kick it off. Don't be shy.
Yeah. And we know we haven't been here for a while, but this is the official start of season 2 Kiflo
Oh
webinars.
yes, you're right, Tommy. So
Yeah,
it's
so many
the
people are just still a little bit shy. It's been a
we are kicking off season 2, and we got great things until the end of the year, but we're excited about this one. And yeah, so please join us for the next ones as well. So no one is putting anything in the chat.
no, we have a lot of messages at the same time. Actually, we just received them. So Darren says partner programs, Sam is in strategic partnerships, Patrick is helping people, partner teams partner better to grow faster.
Okay.
Francisco is looking for a new challenge.
Oh,
Nice.
nice. Well, you might find it
Yeah.
here. I mean, who knows?
Exactly. And then we have Valeria, who is in commercial enablement. Um, George, the same as a couple of times before, head of partnerships in the laser tech manufacturer. Wow, that sounds
Wow.
pretty cool.
Wow.
Wow.
That's super cool. That's super
And then
cool.
Ines as head of partnerships and integrations.
Amazing, amazing. Well, we are glad to have you, and thanks for doing taking the time to have this session with us today. So let's go straight to our guest because he's super cool as well. He's an amazing guy. We enjoyed preparing this session with him. So today we have Maurits Pieper. He's strategic partnerships at Multiverse, and he has an amazing background and story. So Mau, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. It, Thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a couple of friends asked me if these sessions do I enjoy them, and most of the time, if it's about partnerships, I do. So thanks for having me.
No, it's a real pleasure, and we do enjoy having you and all the audience here as well. I'm sure that they are going to enjoy the topic of today's session. It's super interesting, and the title that we selected is like from med to motivated. I mean, it's just like it will give you kind of like a real understanding of how to actually motivate, but also activate and be smart about your go to team market teams, and also using psychology. This is super interesting because again, Mau, you have an amazing kind of like story and background. You basically started from professional basketball, then you went to kind of like academia and university, and you ended up in partnership. So, how did that happen?
I have no idea. I'll be honest with you. I have no idea how I ended up in partnerships. But once I found it, I'm quite happy with where I am. So I think I'm going to be in partnerships long term.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And maybe what we can do is just like start with the first subtopic. We are going to we are going to cover a few subtopics during the session, but the first one is basically kind of like the introduction of what you call the unspoken world, right? Like the psychology of why those go-to markets team receipts actually. So all yours, small.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm definitely not a veteran in the space. So I'm really just talking from my experience. And the reason why I like this topic is because I like to join companies who don't necessarily have a mature partner program yet, or it just doesn't exist. And what I found is those kind of old school top-down enablement models, they simply don't work in those earlier phases of your program. And add on top of it, when you're trying to work with your go-to-market team, who are really the ones that can move the needle quite a bit, they're too busy, right? They have their own KPIs, their own targets, meetings, their own commissions to focus on. And most of the time, they believe partnerships and they see partnerships as just some distraction. So I have found it very difficult at times to tell go-to-market members what to do. Right? they they probably have enough members and managers and bosses telling them what to do already. They don't need another person who's like a unproven partnerships manager telling them what to do, who by the way is also not a direct report. And so I think that's where I saw that problem early in my career. And I thought, what can I do? Get creative to do a different form of enablement.
That's beautiful. And super smart as well, because you applied a lot of things that you've learned from past experience to partnerships and to business, and how that can change. So I think that that's super interesting. So maybe what we can do is, before diving into the next subtopic, is bring up the poll, Tom, because we want to
Yep.
learn from our audience how they're actually feeling about this. So let's just do the poll. So, what is your average go to market team members feeling about partnerships? And it could be positive, either they had or are having a good experience, neutral, not sure about partnerships, could happen, or negative, they had a bad experience or they are having a bad experience. So, let's just see how the results are. So, for now, seems like neutral.
Yeah, we only have one vote. Don't be shy, guys. We want to hear from your
Maybe it's the end of
experience.
the summer that it's just like they're slowly getting into. There we go. There we go. So now a little bit
Okay.
more of positive, still neutral, but some positive, 50-50. Now positive,
Darren says
57.
all of the above. Okay.
All of the above. It depends,
We can
right?
see that happening.
So it seems like, yeah, 50-50 or close to 50-50 between positive and neutral. And it's kind of like expected. I mean, I agree. Like, it depends. But let's just give it one more minute. So now it seems like neutral, seems like not sure, which is great, because now you'll get a lot of insights from Mao and how you can actually fix this. So, Mao, maybe we can go, and
Yeah,
with this information, it will give you a lot of kind of like an idea of where you can focus on. But the next subtopic is, I think it's critical, right? It's just like how
well,
you can actually have that internal playbook and how to find those champions, right? And maybe you don't need to work with all of them. You can actually just like bench the rest.
yeah, exactly. So I'm not too surprised. I like how the poll kind of came back with, neutral. I'm not sure. And that kind of ties well in. Partnerships is somewhat of a new thing. And so there's a lot of reps out there in the go-to-market team that are still trying to get exposure on what is this partnerships thing. To go back, before I get into the internal playbook and how to find your champions, I think there's a kind of funny psychological theory which is somewhat tied to how we can do enablement a little bit differently. I'm not going to get too educational, but there's a theory. It's called the psychological reactance theory. And simply put, that is, how do people react when there's like a threat to their freedom? Or in a more simple way, how do they react when they're told what to do? Take the example of a child and their parent, a teenager and their parent. They get told, take the trash out, do the dishes, don't smoke cigarettes, don't date that guy. In those circumstances, when you're telling someone what to do and there's a little bit of friction in there, there's three type of reactions that can occur. One, what they call the boomerang effect. You tell someone what to do, and they actually do the opposite. The second one is a bit more on the passive aggression side of things. You tell someone what to do, and they actually do it like poorly, or they do it slowly, or maybe they forget, some of it. And then there's the third one, which is they kind of frame it negatively. So they'll do the task that they're given or that they're asked to do, but they're going to complain about it throughout the whole process. Now let's change the lens a little bit, right? We're not talking about childs and teenagers and their parents. we're now talking about account executives and trying to tell account executives what to do in those early days of trying to drum up partner motion success. If there's any chance of those kind of negative effects happening in your partner program, I mean, I don't know about you, but that's pretty scary. But I think the interesting part about that is the opposite could also be true. And what I mean by that is everyone has probably heard of the concept of the forbidden fruit. So in the case of you tell someone that they can't have it or that it's hard to get, it makes them want it more. And using this concept, I'm trying to put this into play with go to market teams that I work with because I want them to understand and try to reframe partnerships as not something account executives have to do, but it's something that account executives like want to do because partnerships is being built as this rare unknown asset that is starting to drive value. And that's I think where we kind of lead into that internal playbook, finding those champions. I think a lot of people have heard it a bajillion times, the ideal customer profile and the ideal partner profile. What I'm trying to work on is how do you build that ideal colleague profile, right? Don't build account plans for your prospects, your customers, and your partners. What if you build your account plan on your own go-to-market team? Because the reality is, I want the best players on the court to represent the program I'm trying to build, right? So they represent it positively, internally and externally. And so when I join a new company or if I join a new department within a company, I want to, scout and do some internal drafting to choose the right partners. I want them to be the guys, the girls to be curious about partnerships, want to work with partnerships. Those are the ones that I want on my team. But that's not always the case. You're always going to find people that have had negative experiences in working with partners. That's completely okay. But it's risky to engage with them because then they start getting labeled as those are the ones where you're being told what to do. You're trying to force feed them partnerships, and you get into the realm of some of those possible negative effects. So I don't really waste my time too much on those. I kind of put them on the bench, and I don't really have a lot of worries because I'm pretty confident that I'm going to convince those, detractors, negative people over time because what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with their colleagues around them and put those colleagues up on stage and showcase their success in working with partners. And then they're going to start getting a little bit curious over time. There's one example that I have from my previous company. It was a very senior account executive. He got an introduction from a partner, and he even got support from the partner throughout the sales process. And when he actually signed and kind of celebrated the success and shared his story amongst the team, he didn't say anything about the partner. And of course, that's a really big bummer. That's an opportunity to showcase the partner win, the partner motion, especially early on in the program. And what I found out was the reason why he didn't talk about the partner was because he thought if he got assistance from the partner, he wouldn't get as much credit from the CRO, from the directors, from his managers, because he got help. And if you're dealing with that type of psychology, I think you have to get a little bit more creative in how to get different profiles of people on your go-to-market team to start working with partners. So it's really about how can you protect your image of the partnerships program. Try to avoid the poor performers who might damage the credibility, and use the correct, let's say, human motivations to get the right members to do the right things in those early partner days.
I love that. You just dropped so
That's
many bombs that it's unbelievable. But the concept of ideal colleague profile, it's amazing. I mean, this is something that it's totally. I mean, I could relate with this one because in a way there are a lot of people out there that struggle with the same. I've spoken with a lot of professionals in partnerships, and they always struggle with the same thing. Like there's resistance. There's always that kind of like senior level, I would say, leader that they don't kind of like get their support. So I think that it's super smart what you are sharing today. It will apply to pretty much everything, and I love that you're using kind of like always the analogy of kind of like sports, the best players bench the other ones and make sure that
Yeah.
you're drafting the other ones. So in a way, I think that it's super important because it applies to the performance as well. I mean, you just show them with results, they will actually want to come afterwards. So
Yes.
Exactly.
that's
So, guys, we have the first question from the audience, which is
let's go.
amazing. Thank you, George, for breaking the ice. Oh, wow, this is great. This is a new feature, guys.
Oh
Just trying
wow.
this out. Okay, so George is asking, Moritz, were those companies you joined strictly channel oriented, or you had to deal with the biz dev department, direct sales in the market? That's what I'm struggling at the moment. A few words of your experience and how you dealt with it. Thanks.
Great question.
Yes, absolutely. Most of the companies that I've worked for have been through tech and integration partners. So let's say the previous companies I worked for was a logistics company. After that was a competitor to Zendesk, and now I'm a bit more in the services space. So it was some integrations, some marketing partnerships, some reselling partners. It was a pretty wide scope, but most of the fun activities that happen with the go-to-market teams, it was definitely not with the resellers. It was not with the pure integration partners. It was definitely with the ones that had a great cultural fit with my go-to-market team. Right, going back to doing the correct matchmaking between reps with reps of the partners. Um, I always tried to qualify partners. What was their cultural fit, um, and how did they treat my colleagues? And so, whether it's channel, whether it's integrations, whether it's big companies or small companies, if they have a good fit from a culture perspective with my go-to-market team, that's usually one of my qualification metrics.
That's great. That's great. I don't know if you have any other questions or we can move to the next
Not
topic, Tom.
so far. No, I
Okay.
cannot see any
As
other
always,
questions.
we'll encourage you to ask the questions for if you have questions for Mo in that specific topic, drop them there in the chat and we'll get them answered. So, Mao, now how can we actually convert those, right? Because in a way,
Mm.
what you want, you have the playbook, but you identify them, you know which ones are kind of like the ones that you're gonna want to go after. How do you actually do that? I mean, like in this case, those three triggers that you mentioned: ambition, FOMO, which is fear of missing out, and the competition. How do you use
Mhm.
that to drive them?
Yeah, I'll probably start with the first one, which is probably my favorite, and that is FOMO. And I use that a little bit as the curiosity engine. When you're starting to deal with some of those early wins with your partner champion internally. And what I mean by early partner wins, of course, it depends on the size of the company that you are and how long the sales cycles are, how big the deals are. But if you're in that early stage of your partner program, you're probably being hounded by your management to get results, yesterday. And so we need to get to the mindset of celebrating introductions, deal insights, workshops, all those smaller things that happen before a deal's closed, or sometimes even when a deal doesn't close at the end. And so those are the things that we need to get, accustomed to doing, because that's when you start stirring up that fear of missing out with your colleagues. One of the ways in which I do that, it's a fun thing to do. I kind of create spaces, opportunities, or stages for what I call secondhand listening. So I'll give you an example. I have a Gong tracker, right, that listens to all the sales calls, and then it tracks when one of my partners is mentioned. Let's say Databricks. It gives me a Slack notification. I then listen to a snippet of the call and then quickly find out, was this a positive outcome? Was this a positive interaction with that partner? Now, instead of me going directly to that rep on a DM or speaking to them one on one in person, I try to find that rep in the office when they're surrounded by a lot of other people. And I ask for an update on how that call went, but asking it as if I don't know, but knowing that when they answer, they're going to talk positively in front of everybody else and they'll be listening, right? And I think this is far more powerful than an announcement, from the partner manager talking about how good partnerships are. That doesn't really work so great. Now, when you're doing this type of thing, I think some people may call it manipulation, and that's okay because we're also talking about account executives. I think they may know something about manipulation themselves. If you took a different example, let's say you're on a live call and you know that it's very likely going to be a positive outcome. Don't take that call in a phone booth. Take it out in the office, right? Give the opportunity for other people to kind of chime in and go, what is this phone call about? Because you want to drive that culture of reps starting to think, well, dang, what is all this Databricks stuff? I mean, I want some of that too, because that helps you build partnerships with that image of that rare, unknown, forbidden fruit that they can't necessarily really have because they don't understand it. But then they start getting curious about it.
I think that that's super smart, Maurits. 'Cause
Yeah, a
it,
lot of people are feeling manipulated in the chat
yeah,
right now.
no, but let's just put it
Hard
out.
for
Like,
great
let's
strategy.
clarify this. I think it's not, well, manipulation. It's not always bad, right? Like, it has a bad reputation, but it's not always bad. And as you said, like, you're dealing with account executives. It's more kind of like applying peer pressure in that case. I mean, they compete. So in a way, I think it's
Big
it's
time,
super smart what you're saying. So,
big time.
do we have any questions, Tom, on or some reactions? Just as you.
Yeah, a lot of people say that this is such a smart strategy, and Darren says I feel manipulated right now, but I like it, which is good,
It
I
is
guess.
great. Yeah, it works. It
He
works,
loves it
right? Like,
actually. Yeah. So,
cool, 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 cool. So if there are not other questions, maybe we can move on because I think that we have a lot to cover still, and we want to make the
Yeah,
time.
sure.
But basically, what you just described in terms of all the things that you were saying, I think that the there's always kind of like why you're doing it, right? And there's kind of
Mhm.
like there should be an ultimate goal. That's why you're doing it. And I think that as people realize, it's super smart, but it shows it gets results. That's why you're
Yes.
going to actually do it. But there's a catch, right? Like, you can
Mhm.
focus internally, but then you can do something else, right? Like, I think that that's where you turn the partners into your competitive edge.
Yes, absolutely. I think another, let's say, human trigger that you could focus on is the ambition, right? This is
Mm.
when you have um, that you've identified a few champions internally. And I think the first rule in kind of utilizing that to spread the word and kind of get that or organic curiosity, the first rule that I always like to tell myself is like the credit is never mine. It's never yours as a partner manager. The go-to-market rep should be the hero in every story. The partner manager, you're the guy in the background. And the reason is because I don't think there's any scaling benefit in Maurits, the partner manager, getting credit for an AE working with a partner. And the reason why that is because you want to put yourself in a position where the colleagues of the champion, like they need to think and they need to see their colleagues doing it with their partners so they can feel as if they can do it too. They need to get that feeling that it's attainable, um, but it's not fully there yet. And I think that helps trigger that inner ambition for them to work with partners. A really good way to do that, which I failed in many times, but there's been some success and then I learned from it, is how to coach those inner partner champions to talk about partner success in their weekly stand-ups, in their QBRs, or on a different format to tell them to give thanks and to give congratulations on public group Slack channels, not in private DMs when there's very limited exposure. And in all those scenarios, I try to tell them, don't mention me. Like seriously, there's no don't mention me. This is about you having the opportunity to showcase your success in front of your peers, your managers, and your partners. Now, when you get into the opportunity of some of those people understanding how partnerships work and the long-term opportunity of it, I try to go a little bit deeper into triggering their ambition. It's worked with a good amount. And again, I haven't been doing this for 20, 30 years, but there's been a good amount of reactions when I start telling some of the go-to-market reps that working with partners is beneficial, not just for your current role, it's beneficial for your CV overall in the future, right? Because there's so much dynamic opportunity in working with partners. You can learn so many essential, strategic, technical type of skills that not only does it make your job more interesting now, it shows strategic, you know, thought process to your managers, to your peers, but think outside the box. Like, you add these things to your CV, this gives you a competitive edge the next time you're searching for a job, right? Or the other way around, if you don't do it, you might be at a competitive disadvantage if you don't acquire those skills and other candidates have. Because in my belief, as like a partner enthusiast, I think partnerships is becoming more and more of a common theme in the market. So you kind of want to pad your CV with skills that you can get now and not wait for your next job when it's already a little bit too late.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. It's just like, honestly, it's a competitive advantage, like in the market.
Yeah,
And I had a follow up to you on that one. Like, well, we have a question from the audience first, from Francisco. Let's go with that one.
It's actually a comment, but I just wanted to highlight it. His comment, he says a lot hinges on how the GTM team is compensated if a partner is involved, particularly with deal rights. But you need to demonstrate that deals will tend to be larger and have higher success rate in his experience. And then he adds, and a good way to sell the partner is to demonstrate that they'll do the harder part of opening the door. Instead of trying to get in, the customer will likely open the door for them because the partner is recognized as a point of trust.
Yes.
yes, absolutely.
Hmm. Couldn't agree more with
Awesome.
Francisco. Thank you for sharing, Francisco. I don't know if you have any other questions, because yes, please, if you have any specific questions that you want to ask to Moritz, please put it in the chat. In the meantime, I had one follow up for you, Moritz, which is
Sure.
what would be kind of like the advice, because you had a lot of experience not from partnerships, and you applied a lot of those kind of like, I would say, skills
Mm.
into the kind of like the partnership space or the business. But if someone is kind of like trying to acquire those skills, is there any tip or any advice that you can give them to, because I think that there are a lot of people that are currently in partnerships, and they are struggling actually with this topic that you're talking about, kind of like convincing not only their go to market team but also their leadership.
Oh, it's a it's such an easy
I,
question you've given me.
it's your
um,
opinion, eh? It's your opinion.
to be honest, Ignacio, I'm not sure if I have an answer. Like, I've I just I've just winged it. I guess because of my previous experience, I've just done all kinds of roles. Sometimes you see on LinkedIn posts from some of those, serious partnership leaders where they talk about, if you're a partnerships professional, you are 30 different roles in one. And I think if you kind of embrace that mindset, every time you interact with the product team, the operations team, customer success, account management, marketing, sales, finance, it's giving you an opportunity to um, learn a new skill set, try something new, add a new tool to your toolbox. Because I see partnerships, if you do it successfully, again, it depends on every company differently. But if you do it successfully, it's building a mini company within a bigger company. And in order to do that, you have to be a quite well-rounded business person. And to do that program like effectively, you also need to understand so many different parts of the business. So I always see opportunities to interact with different departments, junior, senior, quiet, you name it, as a great opportunity to kind of pull out the weeds where other people may not look, because that's where there's opportunity for partnerships to do something different for a business that's trying to scale and get creative in the market.
That was a great answer, Moritz. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that it's clear that I love the analogy of like building a mini company within the company and pulling kind of like all those pieces together. I think that as you said, the best partner professionals that I've seen, they do that really well. And it reminded me of Marta Albey from Surf. Shout out to Marta, where she described how they actually got that partnership with PipeDrive by not going to PipeDrive directly, but actually doing it with their other kind of like partners. So I think it was super smart, and you're doing the same, but internally as well.
Mm.
So I think it's super smart. Tom, I don't know if we have any other kind of like questions.
Yes, we have two questions actually. The first one is from Thomas. He's asking, what is the best way for you to celebrate great deal wins where partners have been supporting? How to well communicate on those wins, both internally and externally?
I'm a big fan of Slack, to be honest. Um, when it comes to Slack, it's like use emojis, go into the group channels, talk about like even the thank you of getting an introduction, even if you don't have the result of the introduction turning into a signature or closed won revenue. Doing that quite consistently when there's 30 members from your go-to-market team and then 20 members from their go-to-market team, and there's even some senior leadership in there, they're going to get a red notification every single time. And you want to give them the opportunity to then go, what's happening in this channel? And then they see other reps saying thank you and congratulations for insights and introductions and co-selling and great meetings. And naturally, they'll just start to be very curious of, I want to get in on this too. And so when you have that easy opportunity to just add in an emoji, and really that goes deep to the psychology, like a rep posting on a Slack channel and 15 people post an emoji on it, that generates a little bit of, I want to do that again and again because my managers are going to see it, my peers are going to see it. So I'm a big fan of Slack. You can do somewhat similar with email. Obviously, you don't get as much fluidity in the communications. But I think that's a cool way to do it. I'm a big fan of Slack.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Cool.
we have another question from Mike.
Nice.
Yep.
Please.
Mike wants to know, Mao, how do you handle conversations with AEs around partners getting a cut of deals they source?
How do you handle conversations with AEs around partners getting a cut? Yes. So usually, of course, it depends on how the commission is, structured. Does it take a part of their commission if they take an introduction from a partner? But I like the mentality of when you start working with partners and you get an introduction or you give an introduction, I want to always frame it as a way, like think beyond this specific deal, right? First of all, you don't know if that deal is going to close, but if you treat it well or if you give an introduction back, the real long-term value is going to be a constant exchange and a new pipeline that has been generated because we're all doing it and we're all doing it like over time. So think beyond the deal that you're currently working on that you don't even know if it's going to close. Think about if we do this with one rep and one of their reps and it works well, what happens if we do it with 5 reps or 10 reps, or we do it in the US and then we do it in Germany and then in the northern market? Like that's how you start to kind of broaden the scope of scaling a go-to-market team with partners.
I love that. I love that. Um, Tom, I don't know if you have any other questions from the
Nope,
audience, but I
no
wanted to
more
ask because
questions in
I
the
know that
chat.
we are kind of like on time. But Mao, I wanted to ask you kind of like maybe you can share with us and the audience some final thoughts of what you currently see and from your experience and kind of like what's coming, because I think that this is super important. You have a lot of knowledge, you have a lot of experience, but I think that people tend to think that now it's kind of like what's working now, but potentially I think that you're on the track to kind of like apply something that really really works, and if you're not applying it, probably you will fail.
Mm. Okay, how to round this up? Okay, so I think when we talked about FOMO and we talked about ambition, those are a little bit more internal, intrinsic, like type of motives. I think if we want to like round it up, we can start thinking of external competition, right? So you've started to build some of those internal champions. You started to clearly show and you can point to how working with go-to-market reps from the partners can benefit, pipe generation, intel, co-selling, introductions, all kinds of things. So it's a kind of pretty cool and new thing. And you've got them to understand that in doing this, you're essentially adding new headcount to your team, right? By building these relationships with partners. They're advocates, they're your eyes and ears and markets, or new markets even. So in a way, these are free agents that are on the market. They are up for hire, they're up for grabs. Now, how does this kind of relate to that external competition? Because if you can show that value in those early days, and you can make it quite clear that we are able to get some of those benefits in working with the partners, well, who else can? And the answer is our competitors, right? So the reality is using this type of mindset can help you tell the go-to-market team that if we don't do it, or we do it slowly, or we do it poorly, we risk having these free agents join our competitors. And that's very much a double bad scenario because we're not just losing out on a potential asset, we're actually having them be used against us. So this isn't just working with partners anymore. This is about how you can win your market by building a wider team against your competition long term with partners. And that's why it's fun, right? It's drumming up this culture of adding this new layer on your go-to-market strategy where people are proactively seeking partner activities. You're not you're not force feeding it to them. You're kind of helping their career. They're adding a new skill set. You're making their job perhaps more interesting, depending, of course, on the company and on the role. Some of these go-to-market roles are extremely repetitive, and you're giving them a creative, new, accelerated way to make their job different and give them something different. So, if I had to say one more piece, and this is a little bit stepping back, maybe it's too high level, but I think in this time of AI where it's making so much noise in LinkedIn, AI, SDRs, emails, videos, so many stakeholders, so many potential buyers and prospects. I think because of AI, they're going to rely so much more on their network. And their network is their relations, their peers, their colleagues, their friends, their family, and, you know, partners. So that's why I'm a big fan of partnerships being quite resistant to what's happening in the market, because I think people are just going to rely more and more on partners. And I think if you add that to why this is a cool skill set to add to your CV, it's a fun place to stay in, and it's a cool, pretty cool creative way to do something different in your go-to-market strategy.
Well said, Mo. Well said. And I think that that was a great conclusion. Especially, I agree with you 100%. Humanizing kind of like the partner aspect of it. I think it will become critical for a lot of companies that don't get it will go under, and changing that kind of like internal culture to everyone investing in the partner success, it's critical. So thanks for sharing this. And yeah, I don't know if you have final kind of like comments or thoughts from the audience, questions, or we are good, Tom.
Francisco says that precisely because of that double risk, it's fundamental to engage with customer success as well. A customer churn that originated from a partner can signal the loss of a whole partner portfolio if
Yeah,
not handled properly.
yeah, correct. A lot of, yeah,
Right.
it
I
has a
like
lot
that.
of implications. Well, Mao, again, it's been a real pleasure. I think that you drop a lot of knowledge, so thanks for sharing that with the audience. Thanks for taking the time to do this with us. You set up the bar super high for season two, so thanks again for doing this.
Thank you very much for having me. And yes, hope to speak to you guys all soon. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And for all the audience, thanks for joining live. I think that it's important that you join live so that you get the chance to actually interact with the guests. And if you haven't seen it, there's a button there that says sign up for the next session. So the next session is at the end of September. We'll have Thomas Dusagat. He's the founder of Viva Go to Market, and he'll be talking everything about partner experience and how that can change your whole business. So please go ahead and sign up for the next session. Again, thanks everyone, and it's been a real pleasure, and looking forward to the next one. Thank you.
Till next time, thank you, Maurits.
Bye bye.